experience that even on a Friday night. Okay guys, my name is Zee Boco. I am from Eastern Cape. I'm very close, guys. I don't have the accent and I didn't study at expensive school, so you will cut me some slack. If my English is not so 100%, then forgive me. Remember that I did not go to expensive schools, okay? So I studied at Bisho High School. That's where I passed my matric. That was year 2007 when I passed my matric. Yes. And then from Bisho High School, I went on to study at University of Fort Hare. I did my undergrad in Bachelor of Economics and Business Sciences, of course. And then I finished that one in 2011. And then I went on to work at Nedbank as a consultant. And then at Nedbank, I decided this is not really what I want. In fact, by the time I passed my matric, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But the thing is that I didn't have experience, I didn't have information, so I didn't know what I wanted to do or how to go on about my ideas and implement my entrepreneurial passion. So then I always wanted to own properties. I wanted to own land, I wanted real estate. So when I passed my matric, I was like, okay, let me just go to Nedbank and work, and then I will see, how I can do with my passion for properties. Because at that point in time, my mother has always been employed, and she always motivated and encouraged me to go get a job. And she doesn't entertain any thoughts of owning a business. She doesn't like that. So when I went to University of Fort, when I started working at Nedbank, I decided this is not really what I want. I want entrepreneurship. I don't like the environment. I felt for me, sorry Nedbank, I know it's bad branding, but the culture of the organization didn't suit my personality and it didn't accommodate my passion for entrepreneurship. So I was always entrepreneurial. How do I say that? The word disappeared, guys. I said cut me some slack. So I always had that mindset and that passion. I was always strategic in my journey, always came up with ideas. Most of my ideas were not embraced because the organization is structured already, so you can't come up with your own strategies and your own way of doing things. So I decided to resign my job. That was in 2012. And guys, I got broke, like literally. Remember, I used to have this nice, beautiful salary that gets into my account every month, and now I didn't have salary. So when you don't have salary, you don't have money to rent, and you don't have money for food. And when you're an entrepreneur, everything matters. Airtime is a big thing, because right now you have to call people, you have to travel, you don't have money, you're an entrepreneur. So I ended up moving from Tata, where I was working, and then I moved back to King Williamstown, back to my home. Guys, I'm from the villages, and it's not nice when you get back to the villages and you're from varsity, right? You're educated, you have a degree, you just graduated, and you had this beautiful job at Nedbank, and now you have to start afresh, and your mother does not like it, and she will never like it, because you resigned, and she paid for you to study. Am I talking too much?
I won't tell you.
Okay, and then I went broke, flat broke, not for 1 year, guys, not for 2 years, not for 3 years. It was a tough journey. And then from there, because I knew this is what I want. I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what kind of business do I want. I know I have an idea that I want real estate, but there's no one around me that's in real estate. Nobody owns a house. My mother is staying in a house in villages, She didn't buy that house. We built it for her when I started working with my sister. So it was a lot of pressure to us because I didn't know how to buy a house. I didn't know the processes that are involved when you want to buy a house, and I didn't know what I should have in order for me to own property and to own land. So in 2015, I started embarking, not necessarily moving fast into a real estate business. So I started buying a plot. I bought this plot at the beachfront in East London. It's some shady neighborhood, but it's close to the beach. So I had an idea that I'm gonna build a campsite. I'm gonna make this place beautiful. Either a campsite or a holiday resort or something like that. I'll tell you more ideas. But yeah, I bought that land. And now when you buy land, you want to build in that land in order for that land to make you money. And I didn't have money to build. You know, I applied for funding, I looked for funding. They wanted someone who has 5 years or 6 years in business in order for me to get that kind of money.
Right.
Because remember, okay.
Having said that, we will come back to the funding.
Yes.
Now, I will come back again to you. Sakhiwo, would you say that when you start a business, now that she said she got broke, would you say when you start a business, you would rather do that part-time and part-time 9 to 5?
I greet you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Which is amazing. I greet you all in the name of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And I greet you, protocol of Zebt. I thank my leadership at Grace Bible Church.
I don't think they can hear you there. So let's. Okay.
Is the mic on?
I can make noise. It's fine. I can scream. It's fine.
Hallelujah. Amen. All right. No, I was acknowledging our leaders for releasing us to be here this evening at Grace Bible Church.
Amen.
All right. So the question is 9 to 5 or do this thing? Is
Or both.
Or both. Yo. Look, I don't think I'm the best person who's suitable to answer this because my view is very biased, right? I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so for me, it's that or nothing, you know. However, I think the best possible practical way in which one can do this is to think of it this way. If my passion is to sell oranges and I went to school to study chemical reactions and I know I don't love chemical reactions at all, but chemical reactions can pay my rent at Rondebosch, which is costing 4.5 per month, but oranges can only give me 60 rand per day when I'm at ShopRite, next to the ShopRite store. So I guess the intuition from you should be to weigh those options. I mean, she spoke of the fact that she resigned and it's not easy to go back home and all those things that she said. So I think be wise about it more than anything. There is no straight and fast answer to say, do this. However, both, if you are doing a 9 to 5 and you're an entrepreneur on the side, that's doable. If you're an entrepreneur, that's also doable. However, you need to know exactly what sustainable strategy you will put in place for that. I think that's all I will say.
Did you go to a private school?
Not at all. I went to Tetangendlala.
Moyo, did you go to a private school?
Not at all, but it was a mission school.
It was a mission school.
Yes.
So you are closer to private school than the other.
I think I'm in between.
Tell us where you're from.
So, hello family. Hi. From Zimbabwe, Bulawayo. Yes, I was born there, in Zimbabwe, and I come from a very big family. My grandfather had 7 wives. Seven wives and 42 children. I'm sure you can see where I'm going. Alright, so that's the family that I come from. And then, no, I'm not joking guys, I'm serious. And I have about at least 15 siblings or so. So That's where I was born, and I grew up in Bulawayo. No, actually I was born in the village. And then I went to town to join my parents when I was doing grade 2. So I started grade 1 in the villages. And then did primary school and secondary school in town. Then I went to boarding school for Form 3. I think you call it standard grade 9 here? Grade 10? Okay. And then, so that's the high school that I somehow started becoming the given that you know now. Yes, it was a mission school. And then I finished in 2011. So that's where the leadership started there at the boarding school, leading in high school, leading other students, leading what you call SCO here. We call it Scripture Unit back in Zee. So we used to have meetings where we have more than 400 students. At some point we had half of the school in 3 days prayer and fasting, and the dining hall was empty. So that's where leadership started, and in fact I got born again because of leadership. It wasn't really in a crusade setting or what, but it was because of realizing the leadership gift upon my life, and then I realized, no man, there's something special that I'm not paying attention to.
When you see me approaching, you know that it's time. Your time is.
Oh, okay.
But you can talk.
So should I just stick to you?
Right. Now that we have established that you guys, none of you has drank Woolworths water, would you then therefore say that you don't have to go to a private school to make it in life? See? Do you need private school to make it in life?
No, you don't need private school to make it in life. But of course, you can make use of the assets and the networks that you get when you're in private school. So it's a huge advantage that you have if you had that environment already. But for us, we had to work to get into that environment.
Right. So it means that there are people in here who are from villages like you guys, who would want one day to be where you are. Are you actually, you can just nod or say this, are you actually saying they have a chance to get to where you are? So there's hope for you guys. What are the struggles that you would say in business, if you start a business? What are the struggles that you would say are common? And we'll start here going there.
Hallelujah. Amen. Starting a business. And greatness is not measured in starting, it's measured in finishing. But the struggles that most of us come across, the first one is the fact that you don't know the jargon of business. You don't know what's required. You don't know what it will entail for you to make it. You haven't seen enough, or rather been exposed to enough people who are in that specific industry or the business that you are starting. So most of the things you have to figure yourself. And if you are educated and you are from UCT, you tend to think that you need to have everything, checked, every box ticked. And that's a struggle on its own because you tend to want to be a perfectionist.
But is that bad to be a perfectionist in business?
In business, it can be both, a bit of both. So, because there is something called analysis paralysis, where you analyze so let's say I want to sell water, and I analyze that, okay, the population is 26,000 students at UCT. on average, people at the library drink these big scoops of water and they buy them at Woolies. Okay, this is what I will do. So you analyze so much to a point that you don't even start. And that is the bad side of being too perfect. And it's called analysis paralysis. So that's the other struggle. And the other one is not having enough time. Time tends to be a big variable when you are starting, because you are doing this thing, sometimes you are studying or whatever you are doing. So you want to dedicate your time fully into this thing that you are starting, and it becomes a lot of a time-consuming exercise. Right. So those are some of the things. I'll leave the rest.
Right. Zee, while you're answering that, we're going back to the banks and say, can you give me capital? Would you say that's part of the struggles that you went through personally? And would you say it's common if someone out there wants to start a business? Is that what the person is going to go through? And if it is, how then do you, if you like, eliminate that struggle?
Okay. First, before I forget, I'm sorry for this clumsy paper, guys. Someone broke into my property this afternoon at 3 o'clock. I was contacted while I was at work and I had to rush to northern suburbs and check the property out, but they didn't steal anything, so God's grace is with me. I wanted this paper to be neater than this, and I wanted to print more copies, but I managed to grab one copy out of the printer and rush out of the office. But this is a list of funders directory. So it's sponsorship that you can get from development financial institutions, from government, national, provincial, commercial banks that offer funding, commercial funding organizations. This is a lot, guys. It's more than 30. It's close to 100 sponsors. So I'll leave this with the men of God here so that you can make copies.
I'm an entrepreneur. I might sell this. No, I won't.
Okay. So my major challenge was to get money to fund my businesses, to fund my ambition. Because initially I was at the bank, I had a job. So now everything that came into the business had to pay me as well because I didn't have a salary. So now I think the very first thing, how I overcome that challenge was to sit down and get a strategy and brainstorm. Where am I going to get money to buy land? Where am I going to get money to buy the business, to buy buildings? Because I wanted to embark on a property or real estate business. So I started off and I sat down with myself. I was like, I'm going to sell clothes. I love clothes. This is what I can do. This is what I can afford to do at the moment. So you look at, first of all, you look at you. What can you afford to do to get where you're going? Because I know that we think big. We have these big ideas. We want to buy flats. But it won't happen overnight. You'll take one step at a time. So I decided to sell clothes so that I can get there. And I also decided to get a job because it's easier for you to get funding to finance your properties when you have a job. So I can do both because I have the grace of God upon my life. And now you can also do both.
Amen.
Because you do. So you can do everything that you want to do. So my challenge was that I didn't have funding. That's why I printed that, so that you guys can get funding. And my other challenge was to be a black female young entrepreneur. I was still a kid when I left high school. And this child that gets into Transnet to teach leaders how to lead, and I'm like 25 or 26 and nobody knows me. So I had to prove myself, and in doing that, I had to rely solely on God because I knew that I don't have anything to say to these people because I don't have experience. But I had to trust God and say, God, this is what you assigned me to do in the marketplace. So if this is your will for my life, you will open doors for me, and also you will give me grace and ability to speak to people. So I would trust God honestly, and then God would help me, and He would give me tenders so that I can get money or finances for my business.
Right. Moyo, for the sake of time,
Yes.
what is do you have a motto in life? And what would be your motto?
All right, just a quick comment, then I'll come into your answer. From the previous question about where you come from matters, and I think I read something that is very interesting. It transformed my mind. Myself as a Zimbabwean, knowing how our country is in a challenging situation. So he says that my identity is not based on where I come from, but it is liberated by where I am going. So I've always looked at myself to say that I was born in Zimbabwe, but for the world. I just arrived in Zimbabwe. So it doesn't matter where you were born. It's about where you are going, you know.
You're opening a lot of questions, and we don't have time, but it's okay.
And then in terms of the challenges, I think as we are in the entrepreneurship service, maybe just to also help those that are not necessarily doing business, but that are pioneers in different aspects, you know. I think for me, the greatest challenge is to just appreciate the simplicity of business. Because we tend to think that it's sophisticated, you know, it's far-fetched, you know, this thing has to be a big idea that transforms the world. Actually, if you realize someone is making money out of selling water. Water, guys. Someone is making money out of selling salt. You know? So I think for me the greatest challenge was to overcome the simplicity of pioneering something. You know, I received the idea of leader to leader. I was in a church service, you know, and suddenly, you know, I just received that idea. And I wrote it in my journal. And then afterwards I went on to develop it and grow it, you know. So that simplicity is quite a challenge, you know. And then my motto in life, basically, it's captured in my first book, Born to Add Value.
Hallelujah.
I think that's my motto in life. It defines the reason why I do what I do. And the reason why I started with this book is because it's going to capture all the other books that I'm yet to write, you know, and all the other businesses and whatever that I'm going to do. It's all about adding value.
Someone must tell me if we're still on time. Are we? Zee, this question goes to you. Your personal website claims that you are a purpose-driven visionary. That's the claim that it makes. That you are a purpose-driven visionary. He spoke about born to add value as as his motto. And it seems like Moyo is actually saying that, you'll tell me if I'm wrong. It seems like you are actually saying that success in business or in anything is not success if it doesn't have the purpose, if you like, if it doesn't have the value that it adds. Right? Am I correct? If I'm not correct, say no.
Not entirely correct.
Not entirely correct. We'll come to that. Purpose-driven visionary. Explain that. What is that?
That basically means that whatever that my hands do, I do it with purpose. I do it because I'm on assignment. I do it because I have grace of God upon my life. Wow. So I don't just jump for opportunities or open doors. I have to sit down.
Even if the money is good.
Even if the money is good, I'll give you an example. I'm sorry for this. It's just a story. It's brief. I was offered a very big, very big opportunity in some other organization that I won't mention. And that man wanted to have a relationship with me, of course. But you know what? But you know what? when you enter the world, if you don't remember anything from me today, remember this. When you enter the world of entrepreneurship, there will be so many situations and so many opportunities for you to change your personal values and for you to adjust them, to bribe. An easy way. There are two ways to success. There is an easy way and there's the most difficult way. And the most difficult way requires personal development, it requires prayer, it requires rejection, disappointment, lack of pride, ego being bruised, and all those things. That's the hard way to success. But there is an easy way to success. The way that requires bribing, the way that requires sleeping to the top. That's an easy way. You can become a millionaire overnight and be an overnight success and will admire and envy you. But honestly, when you're a child of God, you have to decide what you want before you embark on a journey. And there will be so many situations and so many opportunities that will require you to sit back and say that, if it's 20,000, then out of this 1,010,000, I can bribe this guy, But you have to know that God is watching, and you have to be faithful to God when nobody's watching. Because by that time, nobody's watching. There are no Christians. This is the marketplace. This is a big organization, and you want to get into that organization. So make sure that you don't compromise your values, because if you don't, God will compensate you. God will open doors for you.
Correct me.
So she actually captured part of what I wanted to say. It can be success without adding value, but the determining factor is who you are and how you define success. So our definition of success is different. But then in our context, if we are children of God, like she said, and we believe that we are born for a purpose, then our definition of success must be attached to the value that God has created us to add. But for anyone else, it can be anything. But us, it's about adding value.
It's good that we are not anyone else. Sakhiwo, my sources, you'll tell me if I have to chuck them out. But my sources tell me that one of the things that actually occupy your mind is to see Africa to be on top. Should I fire my sources? They're right. What is it that you are doing now as an entrepreneur to make sure that that dream comes to pass?
Powerful. Muruti, that's a very important question that we need to answer in this generation. This is one of the most fortunate generations. We're talking about a generation that knows about the great Nelson Mandela, Tiger Woods, Lionel Messi, Serena Williams, Jacob Zuma, Thabo Mbeki. I can go on and on and on. And if I list those people who, made history in their own right, either bad or positive, we were alive.